Was I wrong for what I did? Honestly, I've replayed that day in my head 1,000 times, and I still don't know. Imagine being at your sister's engagement party, a lavish affair, surrounded by people pretending to be happy for her, only to watch your parents stand up, announce a jaw, dropping $55 million gift to her and her fiancé, and then, in the same breath, tell you, their other child, to pack a single suitcase and leave their lives forever. Tell me, if you were me, what would you have done next? I suppose I should start from the beginning, from a time when our family seemed normal, or at least, what I perceived as normal. My sister, Clara, and I grew up in a household that was, by all outward appearances, loving and prosperous. My parents, Robert and Eleanor Vance, built a successful real estate empire from the ground up. They were self-made, relentless, and always emphasized the importance of family, hard work, and loyalty. Or so I thought. Clara was 3 years older than me, and from as far back as I can remember, there was always a subtle, almost imperceptible favoritism towards her. It wasn't overt. They never outright said, "We love Clara more." Instead, it manifested in smaller ways. Her accomplishments were celebrated with more fanfare, her mistakes were forgiven more easily, and her desires seemed to take precedence. If Clara wanted a specific toy, she got it. If I wanted the same toy, I had to earn it or wait. I attributed it to her being the firstborn, the experiment child, and I, the second, was perhaps destined to be the more independent one. Growing up, Clara was the picture of conventional success. She was naturally beautiful, excelled in academics with minimal effort, and had a charm that captivated everyone she met. She chose to follow in my parents' footsteps, studying business and showing a keen interest in the family company. I, on the other hand, was a bit of a rebel. I loved art, writing, and anything that allowed for creative expression. My parents tolerated my passions, but it was clear they saw them as hobbies, not a viable career path. "It's a nice pastime, darling," my mother would say with a tight smile, "but what about a real job?" I tried to fit in, to make them proud in their own way. I worked hard in school, maintained good grades, and even tried to intern at the family company for a summer, hoping to show them my capabilities. But it always felt like I was playing a supporting role in Clara's grand narrative. My suggestions at the company were politely dismissed, my efforts barely acknowledged. Clara, meanwhile, was praised for every minor contribution, her ideas often fast, tracked and implemented. I remember one specific incident when I spent weeks developing a marketing strategy for a new property, pouring my heart and soul into it. I presented it to my parents and Clara, feeling genuinely proud. My father listened patiently, then turned to Clara and said, "What do you think, sweetheart? Does it have potential?" Clara, who had barely glanced at my proposal, shrugged and said, "It's okay, but I think we could do something bolder, more modern." My parents immediately pivoted, asking her for her ideas, while my detailed plan was quietly shelved. The sting of that moment stayed with me, a constant reminder of my place in their eyes. Despite this dynamic, Clara and I were never outright enemies. We had a complicated sisterhood, intertwined with moments of genuine affection and underlying resentment. We'd share secrets, laugh at silly jokes, and defend each other against outsiders. But there was always that invisible wall, built by parental favoritism, that we could never truly overcome. As we entered adulthood, the disparity in treatment became even more pronounced. Clara was given a senior position in the company straight out of college, groomed to take over the reins. She was given a generous salary, a company car, and a luxury apartment in the city. I, after struggling to find my footing in the competitive world of freelance writing and art, eventually landed a decent job at a publishing house, making a modest but comfortable living. My parents offered me no financial assistance, no leg up, stating that I needed to learn the value of hard work and make my own way. I accepted this, believing it was their way of instilling resilience in me, even as I watched Clara breeze through life with every door opened for her. I rationalized it, telling myself that true success was earned, not given. I found my own apartment, paid my own bills, and built a life independent of their wealth, a silent act of rebellion and a testament to my own strength. Then came the engagement. Clara met Michael, a charming, ambitious man from a wealthy, but not Vance, level wealthy family. He was everything my parents could have wished for in a son-in-law, handsome, educated, and with a clear path to success in his own right. Their courtship was a whirlwind of expensive dates, exotic vacations, and public declarations of love. My parents adored him, seeing him as the perfect complement to Clara and a worthy addition to the Vance dynasty. The engagement party was planned with meticulous detail, a grand affair at one of the city's most exclusive venues, attended by hundreds of influential guests, business partners, family friends, and even some minor celebrities. It was a spectacle of wealth and power, a clear declaration of the Vance family's standing in society. I was there, of course, dressed in a beautiful but understated gown, feeling a familiar sense of being on the periphery, an observer rather than a central figure. I smiled, offered my congratulations to Clara and Michael, and tried my best to blend in, sipping champagne and making polite conversation. The air was thick with excitement and anticipation, and everyone was buzzing about the impending wedding, which promised to be even more extravagant. The evening progressed with toasts, heartfelt speeches, and a general air of celebration. Then my father, Robert Vance, took to the stage, tapping a microphone to get everyone's attention. The room hushed. He stood beside my mother, Eleanor, both of them beaming with pride. My heart swelled a little, hoping, perhaps naively, that he might acknowledge my presence, my support for Clara, something. He began by speaking about Clara, her brilliance, her dedication, her beauty. He spoke of Michael, his integrity, his ambition, his love for Clara. He praised their union as the coming together of two exceptional individuals, destined for greatness. And then he dropped the bombshell. Eleanor and I have always believed in giving our children the best start in life. He began, his voice resonating through the grand ballroom. And as a token of our immense love and belief in Clara and Michael's future together, we have decided to gift them a small contribution to their new life. My parents then unveiled a giant, novelty check. The numbers on it made my breath catch in my throat. $55 million. The gasps were audible. A murmur of impressed whispers swept through the room, followed by a thunderous applause. Clara and Michael rushed forward, tears streaming down Clara's face, embracing my parents. My parents held them tight, whispering endearments, basking in the adoration of the crowd. I stood there, frozen, my champagne glass clutched so tightly my knuckles were white. $55 million. An amount so astronomical it felt like a dream, or rather, a nightmare. My mind raced, trying to comprehend the sheer scale of the gift, the stark contrast to my own struggles, my own independence that they had so insisted upon. I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach, a premonition that this wasn't just a generous gift, but a statement. And it was. After the initial frenzy died down, after Clara and Michael had thanked everyone and accepted countless congratulations, my father excused himself from the crowd and approached me. His expression was no longer one of proud fatherhood. It was stern, almost cold. My mother joined him, her face equally unyielding. I remember the intricate details of my mother's dress, a shimmering sapphire, and my father's perfectly tailored suit, the very picture of affluence and power. They led me away from the main crowd to a quieter alcove near the sprawling buffet table, where discarded canapes and half-empty glasses sat. My heart pounded against my ribs. We need to talk, my father said, his voice low but firm, cutting through the celebratory din. My mother's eyes, usually warm, were now distant and hard. I nodded, my throat dry. Your sister is embarking on a new chapter. He continued, gesturing vaguely towards Clara, who was now dancing with Michael, bathed in the golden glow of the chandeliers. She needs our full support without distractions. He paused, and my stomach churned, and frankly, your presence has become a distraction. My blood ran cold. I stared at them, trying to make sense of his words. What are you talking about? I managed to whisper. My mother stepped forward, her voice softer but no less cutting. Darling, we've always encouraged you to forge your own path, to be independent, and you have. But your choices, your lifestyle, they don't align with the family's image, with what we envision for the future of Vance Enterprises. We need a united front, a legacy. My father then delivered the final blow. We've arranged for a car to take you back to your apartment tonight. You will pack one suitcase, only essentials. The rest of your belongings will be handled by our staff and sent to a storage unit which we will pay for 6 months. After that, it's up to you. You are to move out of the apartment we own and have been letting you stay in rent-free, which we consider more than fair. All these years, effective immediately, you are no longer welcome at our homes or any family gatherings. Your ties to Vance Enterprises are severed. We want you to live your independent life, without any further involvement from us. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. My independent life. The one they had pushed me towards, the one I had built with my own 2 hands, only to be told it was now a reason for my banishment. The apartment, which I believed was mine to stay in as long as I pleased, was now revealed to be a mere act of charity, a leash they could pull at any time. One suitcase, my entire life, reduced to a single bag of essentials, while my sister was showered with millions. The unfairness, the cruelty of it all was a physical ache in my chest. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have pleaded, begged, or walked away with your head held high? I looked from my father's steely gaze to my mother's emotionless face. My mind was a whirlwind of shock, betrayal, and a searing hot anger that began to simmer beneath the surface. I wanted to scream, to lash out, to demand an explanation for this egregious injustice. But something held me back. Perhaps it was the years of being a supporting character, the constant need to prove myself, that had instilled a deep-seated resilience. Or maybe it was the sheer absurdity of the situation, the theatricality of it all, that made me realize I was witnessing the true nature of my parents, a side I had always subconsciously feared but never fully acknowledged. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my trembling hands. A single tear escaped my eye, a rogue tear I quickly wiped away, refusing to let them see my vulnerability. I refused to give them the satisfaction of breaking me, one suitcase. I asked, my voice barely a whisper, but laced with a bitterness I hadn't known I possessed. My father nodded, his expression unwavering. Essentials only. And the apartment. We need it for other arrangements. My mother interjected, avoiding my gaze. I looked at Clara and Michael, still laughing, still dancing, oblivious to the quiet devastation unfolding just a few yards away. The disparity was not just financial, it was existential. They were building a legacy, I was being erased. A plan, cold and calculated, began to form in my mind, fueled by the deepest hurt I had ever experienced. It wasn't about the money, not entirely. It was about respect, about dignity, about the cruel dismissal of my very existence within their family. I turned back to my parents, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching my lips. Understood, I said, my voice now clear and steady, devoid of any emotion. Consider it done. They looked slightly surprised by my calm demeanor, perhaps expecting a dramatic outburst. My father even seemed to relax a fraction, a hint of relief in his eyes. Good, he said, nodding. We knew you'd understand. I didn't understand. I was planning. I gave them a curt nod, then turned and walked away, not towards the exit, but towards the dance floor, towards Clara and Michael. My parents watched me, probably assuming I was going to say a final goodbye, to accept my fate gracefully. They couldn't have been more wrong. I approached Clara and Michael, who were still lost in their celebratory bubble. Clara looked up, her face flushed with happiness, a slight frown creasing her brow when she saw my intense expression. "Everything all right?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern, or perhaps just mild curiosity. Michael, still beaming, gave me a friendly nod. I met Clara's eyes, a lifetime of shared memories and unspoken resentments swirling between us. For a moment, I almost faltered. But then I remembered the $55 million, the one suitcase, the dismissal, and the resolve hardened. "Clara," I began, my voice clear enough to carry over the ambient music, "I just wanted to say congratulations. This is truly a memorable night." I extended my hand, and she took it, her smile returning. Then I leaned in close, so only she and Michael could hear, my voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, but with enough venom to make them both flinch. "I hope you both enjoy the family's $55 million, because when the IRS comes knocking, asking about how such a massive sum was transferred without proper declarations and gift tax implications, I'll be sure to tell them exactly how generous our parents were at your engagement party with hundreds of witnesses." Clara's face, a moment ago radiant, drained of all color. Michael's eyes widened in horror. They both knew, as I did, that a gift of that magnitude without proper legal and tax planning would raise significant red flags. My parents, for all their business acumen, were notoriously careful about their public image and any potential scandals. The immediate transfer of such a sum at a public event, even if intended as a future trust or investment, could be easily misconstrued as an immediate, taxable gift, opening them up to massive tax liabilities, penalties, and intense scrutiny. It wasn't about my parents actually being criminals, but about the perception, the paperwork, the sheer hassle, and potential damage to their carefully cultivated reputation. It was a bluff, a calculated risk, but one I knew would hit them where it hurt most. I pulled my hand away from Clara's, leaving her stunned and speechless. I gave Michael a slow, sardonic smile. "Enjoy the party," I said, then turned and walked directly towards my parents, who were now observing us with growing apprehension. They must have seen the change in Clara's face, the sudden tension in the air. As I approached them, I didn't stop. I walked past them towards the exit, my head held high, a ghost of a smile playing on my lips. I hailed a cab, the cool night air a welcome relief after the suffocating heat of the ballroom. I went home, packed my single suitcase, and left. I didn't look back. The aftermath was swift and chaotic. Within hours, my phone was ringing off the hook calls from my parents, frantic voicemails from Clara, even a bewildered message from Michael. I ignored them all. I stayed with a friend for a few days, giving myself space to breathe and plan my next move. The rumors about the generous gift had already started circulating among the city's elite, and with them the whispers of potential tax headaches for the Vances. My parents, always obsessed with their public image, knew that even the hint of impropriety could tarnish their brand. They couldn't risk a public investigation, the kind of media circus that would undoubtedly follow if I were to go public with my story. My threat, though implied and largely based on the ambiguity of the gift's nature, had hit its mark. Eventually, a week later, I received an official email from my parents' family lawyer, not them directly. It was a carefully worded document, rescinding the request for me to leave, offering to transfer the apartment into my name, and setting up a substantial trust fund for me, mirroring Clara's, though still far less than the outright $55 million. It was a clear attempt at damage control, a desperate effort to silence me and prevent any further damage to their reputation. I consulted with my own lawyer, a sharp young woman I had met through my publishing contacts, who confirmed that while my initial threat was largely circumstantial, the implied damage to my parents' reputation and the potential for a very messy public scandal was significant enough for them to capitulate. I considered their offer carefully. Part of me wanted to reject it outright, to stand on principle and refuse any of their blood money. But another part, the practical part, knew that this was my chance to gain the financial independence and security they had always denied me, but had so readily given to Clara. It wasn't about revenge anymore, not entirely. It was about leveling the playing field, about securing my future on my own terms, without being banished from my family's legacy entirely. I negotiated a few more clauses through my lawyer, ensuring my full autonomy and no future strings attached. They grudgingly agreed to everything. Today, I still have a relationship with my family, albeit a strained and distant one. I own my apartment outright, and the trust fund provides a comfortable cushion, allowing me to pursue my creative passions without the constant financial pressure. Clara and Michael went ahead with their wedding, though the engagement party is still spoken of in hushed tones, a reminder of the drama that unfolded. Clara has never directly apologized, but there's a newfound respect, or perhaps fear, in her eyes when she looks at me. My parents, too, are civil, but the warmth is gone, replaced by a cautious politeness. They know I hold a card they never expected me to play, and that has changed our dynamic forever. I still wonder if I was wrong for what I did, for leveraging their vulnerability, for turning their own obsession with image against them. But then I remember the one suitcase, the $5 million, and the cold dismissal, and I tell myself, I did what I had to do. So, that's my story. It's been a wild ride, and I'm still processing it all. Like this video, if you were on my side, if you think I handled that impossible situation the best way I could. Subscribe for more stories like this, where ordinary lives take extraordinary turns. And please, share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. I'd really love to hear your perspective. I'll see you all in the next story.